episode 4 of the Sports Enthusiast podcast. This is going to be an NBA playoffs prediction show. We're recording this on Sunday night before any of the games have started. So, we're just going to get right into it. I'm your host, Aaron Randak, joined by
Ash McConnell.
And Lucas McGee.
This is obviously going to be a little weird. This is going to be our second episode with the whole delay thing on Discord. So if you guys hear a little, just weirdness, that's what it is. Lucas is in Iowa City right now because he's going to college and all that adult stuff. So, anything to add from you guys?
I'm good.
All right. Ashton, lead us off in the NBA.
All right, so obviously the NBA going into a bubble, I'm sure there was a lot of worries about would this work, how exciting would this actually be. And honestly, it's been a blast watching it. Every game's on TV. It seems like it's been amazing. And so before we get into the playoff matchups, there are some great matchups to be played. Let's talk about the Suns. Obviously, they went 8-0, and yet they didn't make the playoffs. Let's start with Lucas. What are your thoughts about that?
All right. Here's the thing. We should have done the math beforehand, and they should have recognized the fact that the Suns had a chance to literally screw themselves out of a draft pick. And they should have more or less thought of it in the sense that they went 8-0 in a bubble. They literally played the best they could have played, and they weren't allowed to play in game. To me, they shouldn't have been invited to begin with. I understand everyone loved to watch them, and I'm happy they were invited. But the implications that happened because of it, to me, outweighed what happened. And I think that if we had it over, we should have cut it before the Suns, because this is obviously very sad if the Suns are not awarded where they were supposed to be in the lottery. If they were to go back and say, actually, the lottery is going to be off the regular season, there's no harm hurt. We're all good.
I mean,
Aaron, Ashton, any ideas?
They didn't have to win those games if they didn't want to. But
I'm not saying, but I think that they wanted to make a playoff run. Everyone wants to make a playoff run. They played the basketball they were supposed to.
Same thing would happen at the end of the regular season if they go 8-0 at the last 8 games of the regular season and ruin a draft pick. That's always possible.
But it's less heartbreaking to think that they tied the 9th seed and you couldn't even. They should have did a double playing game. I understand you would have had to move everything and it actually didn't work, but that's something that should have been thought through by the people inside of the bubble.
I just think
it's a piece that wasn't covered, and now it looks horrible, in my opinion.
It looks horrible at all. I think they made a rule and they said teams within 6 games or something of the 8 seed were allowed in, and they let those teams in, and they let the teams play 8 games, and they let the chips fall as they may, and that's just how it turned out.
Going on to this point, I have the same thoughts as Lucas. It sucks for the Suns. And I was doing some math, I think, a couple days ago. If the Suns weren't invited to the bubble, instead of having the odds that they now have for the pick, they would have the 7th best odds for the number 1 pick. So I know you said they didn't have to win those games, but they were trying to make the playoffs because they felt like they had a chance, and to just get it taken away and possibly have their odds for the number 1 pick just shattered pretty much. It's it sucks because you said they shouldn't have won, but there weren't all 30 teams playing in the bubble. There was a limited amount of teams, so that didn't help because some of these bad teams maybe could have won some games, and that could have helped out the Suns. But I mean, it sucks. Then again, the Blazers also had the same issue in the regular season. Both teams were dealing with injuries. It's just that the Blazers performed better before the bubble than the Suns did. But I think what it does now, it gives the Suns respect and shows them they're starting to become something special.
Aaron, anything?
Nothing for me.
Alrighty.
All right. Time for the big part of this podcast, the NBA playoffs. Want to start in the East or the West?
Go East.
All right. That's what I like to hear. All right. The first matchup, the 1-8 matchup, is the Bucks 1 seed versus the 8 seeded Magic. Just some key notes to this: the Bucks went undefeated, going 4-0 against the Magic. And looking at some inactives for the Bucks, they actually have no one important that's hurt, which is good for them. Then for the Magic, obviously they're hurting a lot. Aaron Gordon's got a hamstring. Evan Fournier, he's got an illness problem. They're questionable for Game 1. And then obviously Mo Bamba, a coronavirus evaluation. Michael Carter-Williams, foot injury, and Jonathan Isaac, torn ACL, and Alfred Aminu with a knee injury are all out for the rest of the season. So definitely hurts for the Magic. Even with those guys, though, I don't think it would matter that much. I think the Bucks would easily dominate and pull off a sweep.
Lucas?
Okay. Until Jonathan Isaac got hurt, I had the Magic taking a game. The day they lost Jonathan Isaac was the day they lost and got swept. Jonathan Isaac had a chance to slow down Giannis, not at all contain him, but to slow him down enough that they could have sniffed the game out. Now they have no defense. They have no one playing in that small forward, power forward area to begin with. And Bucks in 4, series MVP of Giannis. Don't think anyone's going to dispute it.
Yeah, I also have Bucks in 4, MVP Giannis. That was pretty easy series there.
Now for the next series, I think this is a pretty easy series as well. The 2-seeded Raptors versus the 7-seeded Nets. Yes, the Raptors did only go 2-1 against the Nets in the regular season, but that was with players like Spencer Dinwiddie and Kyrie Irving, who are not playing in the bubble. As I mentioned, here are some key inactives. The Raptors are just out with Patrick McCaw with a knee injury. He's out indefinitely. And the Nets have all sorts of injuries. Jamal Crawford's out for Game 1. Goodness, more time. And then here's all the players that are out for the rest of the season. Kevin Durant, obviously, his Achilles. Kyrie Irving, his shoulder. Jerion Prince because of COVID. DeAndre Jordan because of COVID. Spencer Dinwiddie because of COVID. Wilson Chandler because of COVID. And Nicholas Claxton. That's a big hit to that roster. And I think it's another sweep waiting to happen.
I'm going to argue the Nets pull off a game. I got Raptors in 5. Karis LeVert has been playing very good basketball. I mean, the Nets, I forgot who I was watching him play the other day, but I think it was the Blazers. They took him down to the wire. And it was Karis LeVert and Joe Harris. And I feel like that team can squeak a win out against this Raptors squad. Raptors are good. They'll make a mistake. Like I said, series MVP Pascal Siakam.
I also have Raptors in 5, series MVP Pascal Siakam. This Raptors team is just too deep and too loaded for this Nets lineup. That's really all I got on that one.
Yeah. I have Pascal Siakam as the series MVP. The only reason I have it as a sweep is because I think Nick Nurse is going to have the head coaching advantage by a mile. Obviously the Nets hired their coach, so they won't even have. It's kind of, I think it's a mismatch, and plus the Raptors are a great defensive team. I think the Nets will struggle with that, but obviously we all have them winning. So now for a very interesting matchup, the 3-seeded Celtics versus the 6-seeded 76ers. Obviously, the Sixers have been very, very worrisome in this bubble, especially, I'll mention it later, soon. Ben Simmons is out for the year getting knee surgery, but during the regular season, the 76ers were 3-1 versus the Celtics, which is very interesting for this matchup. Now some of the key inactives for Boston. Luckily, they only have one injury. Romeo Langford is questionable for Game 1 with a wrist injury. Other than that, they're perfectly healthy. But for the Sixers, Glenn Robinson III is going to miss some time with an oblique injury. And then players like Ryan Brokoff, Zaire Smith, and Ben Simmons are going to be out for the season. My prediction for this, I'm going to say Celtics in 6 games, especially with no Ben Simmons.
So I got Celtics in 5. The worrisome here with the Sixers is they lost a lot of guards. Brokoff, Simmons, and Zaire Smith. That's 3 of their guards gone. When you start to run out of guards against a team that has as many guards as the Celtics do, you're going to see problems with matchups, and you're going to start to see the tiredness show later in a series. And I feel like the Celtics team is just too deep right now for this Sixers lineup, and I have Celtics in 5. I'll give the MVP to Jaylen Brown because he's playing really well in the ball.
I've been back and forth on this one. I do think the series is going to go 7 games. I'm a big fan of the Sixers lineup. I think they have a lot of scoring potential. Even without Ben Simmons, you have Tobias Harris, Al Horford, Joel Embiid, Josh Richardson. That's very good defensive players right there. And you have Milton, the point guard, he gets the job done. You have guys like Matisse Thybulle off the bench, Furkan Korkmaz, those type of guys who can score. You do have to worry about the overall depth of their bench, though. You don't really have more than 8 guys that can really give you quality minutes. But with that being said, I have the Sixers in 7, with Joel Embiid winning MVP of the series.
It's a very bold
Time out,
statement.
Ashton. Time out, please. I can't do this. Aaron, who's gonna guard? When you take Josh Richardson out, who's gonna play point guard? Or not Josh Richardson. When you take Milton out, who's gonna play point guard?
Alec Burks.
Are you gonna move Josh Richardson down? Are you
Burks.
gonna make Josh Richardson play that many minutes?
Burks.
Are you gonna try and tell Korkmaz one of the worst dribblers?
Burks.
Alec Burks?
Yes.
Alec?
You can
Okay.
you can move Tobias over to the point if you really need to, if you're
You're-
desperate.
You're losing so much playmaking without Ben Simmons. I don't know how anyone could ever see the Sixers winning this. The playmaking is such a drop off. It's destroying the team dynamic that they've been running all year. I just
Al Horford.
dumbfounded that someone actually picked the Sixers.
He's been lacking in the bubble, along with
Horford's been slumping. Tobias has been kind of slumping in the bubble. I mean, these guys had great regular seasons, but they're not playing very well in the bubble. I'm just surprised.
and looking at team stats throughout the year, Boston is better than the Sixers in everything except for assists per game.
And with Ben Simmons being gone, the assist leader, that obviously drops. Thank you.
Well, I mean, when you look at their last game against the Rockets, I know it was just one game, but they had 31 team assists. They won by what is that?
That was the
38
last game
Yeah, I know.
of the bubble.
Yeah.
It literally had no implications on the playoffs. You think they took that seriously?
You let me talk?
I wouldn't have cared.
Will you let me talk? So, my point here is when you look at their team, everybody scored in that team. Almost everyone was in double digits there. So, you guys have scores 1 through 9 there when you really look at it. And I just have the Sixers winning. I'm not a big fan of the Celtics team. I don't think their defense is as good as people give them credit for. I think Jason Tatum is a bit overrated, especially when it comes to playoffs. So, yeah, that's my opinion. Series MVP, Joel Embiid.
Lucas, you have anything to add? If you do,
I'll let it go. I'll let it go.
Okay, yeah. I guess it's one of those kind of tougher series compared to another one we might have coming in the future. And for our final East series, it four-seeded Pacers. They flip-flopped after the last game of the bubble seeding. And so throughout the regular season, the Heat beat the Pacers in the series matchup of 2-1. Some inactives for the Heat are Derrick Jones Jr. and Jay Crowder. They are both going to be questionable for Game 1. Obviously, Derrick Jones Jr. recently took a hard hit. And then for the Pacers, obviously TJ Warren, he has a foot injury. He'll be questionable. And then they're missing players. Big player, Domantas Sabonis, their all-star. He's out, obviously, for indefinitely. And then Jeremy Lamb's out for the season for them. Now, my prediction, I think, unless I haven't really seen much of Oladipo, I think it's going to go Heat in 5 with, I'm going to say, I'll say Bam Adebayo for Series MVP. There's a lot of people you can pick for that team. They're all around great.
The Heat are one of my favorite teams right now in terms of the fact that they're a solid team all around. Ironically, the Pacers are the same way, a very solid team all around. Goga Bitadze is playing amazing, in my opinion, off the bench for that Pacers squad. And I feel like he's going to be a quiet player in this playoffs. It's going to make a pretty big difference. If TJ Warren is not playing, I don't see my prediction going through. But if TJ Warren's back by game 2, I have Heat in 7, and I think it's going to be strictly off of the way that Duncan Robinson plays in this series. Because you're going to need a lot of perimeter shooting from this team, from that Heat team. Because I mean, inside, Miles Turner is an amazing defender, and Goga Bitadze is not much of a drop off. I mean, between those two, I feel like they're gonna slow Bam down. They're gonna take away the drive of Kendrick Nunn, and I feel like it's gonna have such a giant effect that if Robinson's hitting, it's gonna change everything. Aaron?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Heat in 6 for this one, with my series MVP being Tyler Hero, probably off the bench for this one. And he, one of the young stars in this league, I just think the Heat are too deep for this Pacers team overall.
Lucas, the only reason why I say the Heat in so little games, because TJ Warren's been amazing, but every time they play the Heat, it seems like TJ Warren shrinks and just falls apart, mainly because of Jimmy Butler. It seems like he gets in his head every time. And
Jimmy Butler is an amazing defender. I understand where you're coming from, but I can see this. I think this Pacers team is a lot deeper than people are giving it credit. I think if Oladipo can get himself in the playoffs, maybe he can play like the Oladipo we all remember before his quad shattered. I think this Pacers team has a future at the Pacers, and that's why I have them at 7. I understand where you're coming from with 5. I'm not going to be surprised if it's a quick series because, I mean, that Heat team is great. But I'm going to have to go Heat in 7 because I do feel the Pacers team is going to surprise everybody.
Yeah, the only way it would make if it was 6 or 7, it would be because they had Sabonis. But since they don't have Sabonis, I was even a fan of this Pacers team. But with Sabonis out, I think that hurts their chances a lot, and that's why I had them lower. All right, now for the West matchup, these are some really good matchups. Our first one, Lakers, Blazers. Lakers had 1 seed, while the Blazers had the 8 seed. They obviously went on a tear. Dame Dalla went insane, and he got the Blazers their way into the play-in game, which they defeated the Grizzlies. And so, looking at some of the key stats, the Lakers are 2-1 against the Blazers in the regular season. And inactives are for the Lakers, Avery Bradley and Rajon Rondo. Bradley's going to miss because of, obviously, he's got family issues. And Rondo, he's out, but what I've seen, he could possibly come back maybe the series or it's the next series. And then as far as the Blazers, obviously, Ariza, Rodney Hood are out, and then Caleb Swanigan. So, for me, I'm going to go, the way the Blazers have been playing, especially Dame, I'm going to go Lakers in 6. Obviously, the Lakers have been struggling. I think they'll get it figured out. And also, I don't think LeBron can be really stopped by anyone on that Blazers team. I think they're mismatched there. But I think the way Dame has been playing, even Nurkic, he's been an absolute stud. I think it's going to be, they don't really have a guard to stop Dame, and I think that's what will push the series to 6, maybe 7.
Blazers in 6. Now let me explain. AD he's playing better than LeBron right now. If you want to argue all you want in the past, go ahead. I want you to stop, and I want you to look at bubble statistics really quick for me.
But is that a bad thing?
What's that?
When you have your
let me finish. Let me finish, please.
Okay.
LeBron is averaging barely over 20 points right now. Barely. Damian Lillard was averaging just under 30. So my scoring differential there is pointing that I feel like the Blazers, Lakers, those two stars are matched up. Yusuf Nurkic is dropping 20-20 almost every game right now. He's looking like he's never going to be stopped. I think that he's going to have such a ridiculous impact on this game. It's going to cause a little bit of a shell shock for the Lakers. I mean, no one's going to be anticipating the Blazers come out as hard as they will. McCollum shoots like he did at the end of the game against the Grizzlies and the beginning of the games against the Lakers. I have a hard time believing that the Lakers will have enough outside scoring other than their 2 superstars to match up. I think this Blazers team is a hell of a lot deeper than the Lakers team. And the way that I want to say this is if the series gets to 7, I'm going to go Lakers. but I think it'll be Blazers in 6. And I think that it's going to rely a lot on how Damian Lillard, the bubble MVP, a man who played the best for the last 8 games, the hottest player right now, plays. And the fact that he has Yusuf and Hassan down low. I mean, he has 2 prime centers there. And Hassan sucked against the Grizzlies. I'm aware. It's whatever. Zach Collins sucks. I'm not going to argue anything. If they were to match up Zach Collins on Anthony Davis, I think the Lakers would blow them out the water. But I think Yusuf is going to slow AD down, and I feel like there is a chance that CJ McCollum will slow down LeBron. He's not going to stop him.
What?
Okay,
Don't miss it.
okay. I know
You
I
need
said
to understand. You need to understand that LeBron's gonna try to go to the hoop on every play because he has such a smaller guy on him, and they're obviously gonna crowd it. I think that the perimeter shooting on this Lakers team will not hold enough water. I mean, it's Contavious, J.R. Smith, Alex Caruso. I mean, those guys are gonna have to shoot a very high percentage in order for them to beat this team. Because if I was a coach for the Trailblazers, I would pack the lane and I would make it as hard as hell for LeBron to get to the paint. Because honestly, if LeBron gets to the paint, he'll score every time on CJ McCollum. But if you have 2 people there, it will finish his chances. And I feel like everyone should be ready for a very shocking series, Lakers Blazers. Now we're going to get to the irrational yelling from Aaron about how LeBron's the best player in the league, even though he had a very rough 8 games in the bubble, and he is very big on the fact that the past matter or doesn't matter. So, Aaron, I'll let you talk now.
Well, one, none of the games the Lakers have played in the bubble have mattered either, so they haven't tried yet, to be fair. And, okay, if I wish there was face cam right now to see the reactions of me and Ashton. We are cringing, having our head in our hands and our faces. We're cringing right now. You're forgetting Kyle Kuzma, who's had an amazing bubble as well. You didn't mention his name.
Oh, don't say that.
You didn't mention him.
Don't even.
What do you mean?
Don't say Kuzma had an amazing bubble.
He did.
That was not amazing basketball. Amazing basketball is not what that was. I don't know how many different ways I could word that to get it through your thick skull. He didn't play bad. He didn't play good. He played about what he's supposed to.
I mean, when you have the 3rd best player on a team averaging 16 points per game and 44% from 3, I'd say that's pretty amazing for the 3rd best player on a team.
They're going to have to play a lot deeper than 3 if they want to beat the squad.
I didn't say they only had 3 players. And if you're going to pack the lane, LeBron is the best passer in the world. Do you agree?
Yes.
So he will find open teammates. And if Kuzma's shooting 44% from 3, that's impossible to stop.
Do you remember last year? I think it was last year when the last time that Kuzma was in the playoffs, and he was, atrocious.
They didn't make the
playoffs.
What was it, 2 years ago?
They didn't make the
This
playoffs. This is their first time making the playoffs in 6 years.
It must have just been clutch time games then. I could have swore they were in the playoffs, but I guess that makes sense. Whatever.
Okay, Lakers in 4, LeBron MVP.
LeBron's my MVP.
Oh, I didn't even say an MVP. Damian. Sorry.
You say they're going to stop LeBron. Okay, first off, I'm looking at stats. Yes, they outrank the Lakers in points per game. The Blazers are 6th with 115, while the Lakers are 11th with 113. The Blazers are 26th in points allowed with 116, while the Lakers are 4th with 108. I know the regular season's a little bit different than the bubble, but I think like with the Bucks, they've been struggling too, and even the Clippers a little bit. I think they just need a little time to get things figured out, and I think this is where LeBron's going to really shine, especially when they don't really have anyone to guard him, and if they're going to pack the paint. You also forget they have another superstar in Anthony Davis.
Lucas, any rebuttal?
Nope. I said my piece.
Okay. All right. Well, just getting started because now we got Clippers, Mavs. looking at the regular season matchup, Clippers were undefeated going 3-0 versus the Mavs. But here's some key inactives for the Clippers. I guess things might have changed, but I swear I saw Montrezl Harrell could be questionable for game 1. Obviously, he missed.
Montrez will not play game. I'm going to interrupt quick. Montrez won't play game 1. I think his 7 days ended about game 2. He did just come back to the bubble. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Nope, that's fine. I just wasn't sure. Thank you very much. And then Pat Bev with a calf injury and Landry Shamet with a foot injury are both questionable for game 1 versus the Mavs. Very key pieces to that Clipper roster. But now for the Mavs, Porzingis, he has a heel injury, but he is probable for game 1, which is good. But some key pieces that the Mavs have been missing in this bubble are Courtney Lee, calf injury, obviously Dwight Powell, Achilles, Jalen Brunson shoulder, and Willie Cauley-Stein, the birth of his child, are all missing time in this bubble and all aren't going to play, which is huge for the Mavs. But like I said, with the Blazers, I feel like the Mavs have the chance to do a little damage, especially with some key Clippers missing time. I'm going to go Clippers in 6 as well with. I'm gonna go with Kawhi for MVP. It was either him or Paul George, but I'm gonna go with Kawhi. I feel like though Luka and Porzingis will do some damage because I feel like Porzingis will have a mismatch anywhere. I don't think there's anyone that can really guard him.
I wanted so badly to pick an upset here, but Kawhi Leonard is one of the best players right now.
Yes.
I don't care load management. Yeah. He is a great basketball player. He plays both sides of the ball. Plays great in the playoffs. So I'm going to say Clippers in 6 also. Kawhi Leonard, take the MVP. I really want to say Luka and Kristaps can do it, but it's next year, not this year, that the Mavs will be doing damage. And the people who are out for the Mavs will hurt a lot. That's what I got.
Clippers in 7 with Paul George MVP. Not really much to add there.
Yeah, so obviously we all agree it's going to be a close series, and I mean, we'll just have to see what happens. And then now our 3-6 matchup, the 3-seeded Nuggets versus the 6-seeded Jazz. So looking at the regular season Nuggets, we're 3-0 versus the Jazz, and looking at some inactives. For the Nuggets, Gary Harris with a hip, and Will Barton with a knee, and Vlatko Cansar with a foot injury are going to be out for at least game 1, which at least Will Barton and Gary Harris play a key role for the Nuggets team. I don't know about Vlatko. Then as far as the Jazz, obviously Bojan Bogdanovic, he didn't go to the bubble because of surgery. Mike Conley has the birth of his child, will be out at least 3 games, maybe more. We'll see. And then obviously Ed Davis, we just found out today, is going to miss the first round because of a left knee MCL. So for this series, I think I'm going to go Nuggets in 5. I feel like Jazz missed a couple of key pieces. I mean, Nuggets are a great roster all around. Obviously, Michael Porter has been tearing it up. Bol has been a young star too. And obviously, they got Jokic and Jamal Murray, who made his return, has been playing some great ball. And I feel like that roster all around is way better than Utah's, even though they do have Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. I think it won't be enough. With
Nuggets. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I forgot to mention my series MVP, Nikola Jokic.
Nuggets in 5? People wake up on this Nuggets team, please. I mean, Jamal Murray came in. He hadn't played in, 4 months? And he went out there and he played, 42 minutes, I think was the actual number in that overtime game. He was a key part that whole time. He has a fighter attitude that he didn't have before. And it's going to take his game bump up a level. It's still not where I thought he was going to be coming out of college, but he's another step up. We got Nikola Jokic, one of the best playmakers in the NBA right now. One of, might I clarify. Michael Porter. I mean, there's so many pieces. This team is so deep. The reason that I have the Jazz winning a game is because I'm starting to see the Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell chemistry come back. And I feel like that's something that coming into this bubble I didn't expect to ever see again because, I mean, we all know the story. Rudy Gobert got Donovan Mitchell sick. Most likely. It could have been the other way around for all we know, but it's looking consistent that it was Rudy Gobert who had it first. But I mean, when they started to show chemistry together, I started to kind of put more stock in the Jazz. But I think that with the departure of Mike Conley, the point guard position becomes so much more sketchy that because you have to create a hole to fix the hole. I think that the Nuggets just become too much to handle, and I got Nuggets in 5. Watch for the Nuggets deep in the playoffs.
I'm going to disagree with both of you guys because I got the Jazz in 7. Reason I say that is because defense,
I just think the Jazz team defensively is so superior to the Nuggets defense, and I just think the Jazz can shut this Nuggets team down. You have Gobert on Jokic, and then Mitchell's an okay defender. He could probably slide over to the point guard spot, and they can go big. They can go, if they need to take Gobert out, they can probably go small. I just think this Utah team defensively can match up with any team in basketball.
I think losing Ed Davis hurts that team a lot in a way that you wouldn't expect because it puts a lot of pressure on Tony Bradley to be able to play a lot of minutes. He didn't play much before the bubble, and Tony Bradley being Rudy Gobert's backup right now, I mean, I think the Jazz team's just creating too many holes for them to fix, and I feel like that fact's getting overlooked by most people, and I think that it's going to really bite them in the butt. I think that you need 3 good defenders as the Jazz team, and with Conley gone, I think it just throws a huge monkey wrench on it. Because Conley played some great defense while he was in Utah before he left, and yeah, Ashton.
Another reason why I think the Jazz are going to get beat in 5 games. Yes, they might do well defensively, but they just lost Ed Davis and Mike Conley for time. Ed Davis for the series. But also, looking at the Nuggets roster, they're just all around amazing. Obviously, Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray are the 2 stars. And then you got a guy like Michael Porter Jr. who's looking like what people thought of his potential as a possible star in the league. You got players like, obviously, Bobo's trying to turn himself into something. Gary Harris, Jeremiah Grant, Monte Morris, PJ, he is out. But you got just going through this, and even though he's out, it's 1 game, and it's for just going through this entire roster. Monte Morris, PJ Dozier, Troy Daniels, Mason Plumlee, even another guy who was a star, not where he was with Atlanta, but Paul Millsap. He still does work for the Nuggets too, but all around, they're just all around talented, well coached, and I think that'll just be too much for the Jazz.
I slightly disagree with that all-around talented point. I just don't think they have enough defense there. None of those guys that you mentioned can stop Donovan Mitchell in any way, shape, or form. And I just think he's going to go off and he's my series MVP.
Lucas?
I'll bite my tongue.
okay.
Let's go next match.
The next and final one. All right, going to the most anticipated series, I would say, between us 3 is the 5-seeded Thunder versus the 4-seeded Rockets, another series that kind of flip-flopped at the end of the bubble seeding games. Now going to some of the stats for the regular season, the Thunder are 2-1 versus the Rockets, and looking at some key inactives or injuries. For the Rockets, Russell Westbrook is out at least game 1, could be 2 or 3 with a quadriceps injury, and Diablo Cephalosha has not been in the bubble and has missed the rest of the season for the Rockets. And as far as the Thunder, it's just been Lou Dort. He was out with a knee injury Friday against the Clippers, but otherwise he is perfectly fine, I would say. And now going to my prediction, I've been flip-flopping this back and forth. I think I'm going to go Thunder in 7 with Chris Paul as my series MVP. I think Chris Paul is just going to do it all for the team. He's going to be a great floor general, and I think he's going to lead the team to success and get the job done.
I got Thunder in 5. I feel like the depth of this Thunder team is often overlooked. I think that Schroeder, Shai, Steven Adams, Chris Paul, they're all amazing defenders. And someone that no one talks about, he's not a good defender, but someone that no one talks about is Danilo Gallinari. I mean, he puts in work at that power forward position. I feel that he's often overlooked. I think the Rockets will have a hard time matching up with this. And I feel like Steven Adams is going to have a field day. He's going to have to work his butt off because he's going to have to be guarding PJ Tucker. But I think he'll have a field day. And I think that Gallinari will be able to destroy Robert Covington because Robert Covington is very inconsistent. So with me saying that, he could go off for 40. Who knows? But I feel like without Russell Westbrook, James Harden's going to have his hands full with the amazing defending team of the Thunder. And I have the Thunder in 5. MVP of Shai, Gilgeous-Alexander.
All right, I have the Rockets sweeping the Thunder. And the reason I have this is because I think Steven Adams will actually have to be taken off the floor because of his inability to guard on perimeter. And I think that's something that people are they aren't looking at because the small ball does work for the Rockets. It might not be everyone's cup of tea, but it does work. And I think it'll really limit Steven Adams' minutes. Another thing is, I don't think anyone's going to debate that the Rockets have the best player in this series. And they also have the more experienced team. When you look at the Thunder, the really only experience is Chris Paul in those deep playoff runs, and he has not.
Steven Adams.
He hasn't really been in any deep playoff.
Steven Adams.
Yeah, I guess he did have the one in the Western Conference Finals. But other than that, they really don't have much experience. When you look at this Rockets team, they're old, they're veteran, and they know what they're doing in the playoffs. And my MVP is James Harden.
Luka.
I think that with the hole that's created by the loss of Russell Westbrook is something that people need to remember. I mean, I'm not even for sure how many minutes Eric Gordon's going to be able to play. I don't know if he played full capacity last game. He very well might have. I didn't think he did. I think that even if you're going to try to make a team out of James Harden and Eric Gordon versus a team of all these guys, the difference that I think is kind of not talked about enough is like when Harden was going off with the Rockets a few years back, or last year even, before Russell got there, they had Clint Capella, and Clint Capella was one of the better low perimeter players in that like Western Conference time. And he put in work, and he would get a lot of rebounds off of James Harden misses. And I feel that the lack of rebounding will hurt them. I mean, they're hitting shots, don't get me wrong. But you've heard it time and time again. You live by the 3, you die by the 3. And I think that now is the time that they die by it.
Ashton, you want to go or do you want me to go?
You go.
Well, I think the reason the Rockets are undoubtedly the better shooting team in this series, and I do think they will kind of force the Thunder to go small ball here. And when you go small ball, you need to be able to hit the 3, and the Rockets are one of the best 3-point shooting teams in basketball.
So I
think for the Thunder, sorry, Ashton. One more thing. I think the Thunder could play a solid small ball lineup, however. I mean, Gallinari at the center would not be that small of a small ball lineup. Gallinari would be able to guard PJ Tucker. It's not at all going to be a problem for Gallinari. And I think that Gallinari can shoot, Gilgeous can shoot. I mean, obviously not at the capacity that Harden can or that Gordon can. But beyond that, there's a drop-off where the Thunder are consistent. You can put 5 mediocre shooters out there together.
There's too much of a drop-off, though, when you look at percentage-wise.
Okay. Lucas, can I go?
Certainly.
All right, so I looked at the 3 matchups between the Rockets and the Thunder. Obviously, the Rockets won the first game, and then the Thunder were able to take the next 2. Harden actually doesn't do that well against the Thunder. Yes, he does average 28.6 points per game, but he averages only 5.3 assists per game. He shoots 33% field goal percentage per game and shoots 15% from the 3-point range, having 3 turnovers per game, while Westbrook has 29 points per game, averages 8.6 assists per game, shooting 59%. Yes, he only shoots 13% from 3. He only took 8 total games between the 3 games.
When were those games played? When it comes to the regular season? Because if they were, the reason I'm wondering is because
the loss, when the Thunder lost, it was the first week of the NBA, and the other 2 were, I think,
they were in
All-Star weekend or after.
They were in January.
Because the reason I'm asking that is because
they were January.
When you look at Russell Westbrook's stats compared to James Harden, Russell Westbrook was in his hot streak of the year. That was his hottest time of the year. And I just think James Harden, overall, he's, a top 3 to 5 player in basketball, and he's going to carry this Rockets team, in my opinion.
I just don't think that they can pull off a sweep at the very least. I think a sweep is a little blown out. I think that this Thunder team is a lot more than what you're reckoning for. I think that
I would say the
Chris
exact.
Paul is one of the better defenders right now.
And especially
I think that Chris Paul is, and he's going to be able to shut down Harden. And I think that, well, not shut down.
Disagree with
I
that.
don't like to say shut down. I take back shut down. He's going to slow him down significantly.
You think he's going to guard James Harden?
Who else is he going to guard?
Well, because James Harden is 5 inches taller than Chris Paul. He's probably stronger than Chris Paul. And I think that is a big mismatch there when you actually look at it.
Regardless, Shai is not that much worse of a defender.
Well,
And Shai is probably – he's going to stay with Harden better in terms of quickness.
Are you retracting your Chris Paul point?
No, I'm not. I'm saying that either of those guys will be able to slow him down. I think that the consistency throughout that lineup is so different. I think that I understand they don't have a superstar like James Harden or Kawhi Leonard. They can ball. They have 3 guys that are about the same area 4 guys that are about the same area in terms of play, and it's not like it's a team like the Hornets who don't have anyone that good. It's a team who has good players, good/great players that not like stars. I think that the star principle is thrown out when you can have 4 players that play consistently the same way around each other. I mean, even almost 5. You could almost argue Schroeder's in that group. You got Shai, Steven Adams, Danilo Gallinari, and Chris Paul. I mean, that team's built to be a solid team, not a super team, and it's working.
And without Westbrook, I think that's where Harden is going to take a big blow because now he's going to have to go back to using all of that energy on offense. And I think late in the games that could get him tired out and maybe missing more of these clutch shots because he's so tired or because he's taking so much contact because he tries to draw contact in the paint. And a guy like Steven Adams, can definitely lay the hammer down when he needs to.
But I'm back to my point again. I really think Steven Adams is going to be limited to minutes in this series because he cannot guard on the perimeter to save his life, which I don't think you guys will disagree with that point. And with this Rockets small ball lineup, it's proven to work, and I just think that it'll be too much for the Thunder to handle, in my opinion.
I think that the biggest deciding factor through this will be who that 5th Thunder player is if they decide to go smaller. Because obviously you're going to go Gallinari. You're going to have to find someone for that guard Rocco or /PJ Tucker, depending on which one Gallinari takes. And then you're going to have the 3 guards they use. And all 3 of those guards are amazing players. And who's filling Russell Westbrook's hole? Do you guys know off the top of your head?
If Eric Gordon's
who's filling in the starting lineup? Well, Eric Gordon started before, though.
I'm taking Eric Gordon in that spot.
Who was before? No, but then who's taking Eric Gordon's spot? Who's sliding in because there's a lack of player?
It's either Daniel House or Austin Rivers.
And
I would imagine it's Austin Rivers.
Austin Rivers had a good game. Don't get me wrong. But it was one game.
I'm not saying
he's not going to be able to hold up what he needs to do. He's a horrible defender, atrocious defender. And I feel like he's going to be guarding. No, what is he? 6'4"? He'll probably. He might take the point guard. He'd probably guard CP3, I guess. So I guess he doesn't have to worry so much. He's going to get passed over the whole game, but everyone does when they play Chris Paul. He's one of the better passers in the league. But and then you're going to have Harden guarding Shai or Schroeder. You're going to have Gordon guarding the other. Neither of those guys play much defense.
I disagree with the
Harden. And you're trying to put them on Shai.
Harden is one of the most underrated.
Oh, yeah, okay. Keep riding Harden. Keep riding.
Harden,
talk to your buddy over. Talk to Ashton about it.
He's not going to be able to. He's going to be so tired.
I can. Okay.
It's
I
not
mean-
like he's never played without Westbrook before, though.
He's done this before, and he just got 6
And
months off.
He also had rim protection when he did play without Westbrook, for the most part.
Now he has more ways to create contract and more. He can open up his game even more with this small.
No, but the defense is such a hole, is what I'm saying. He doesn't have the rim protection. PJ Tucker doesn't block shots.
Neither will the
We
Thunder.
both know Rocco.
Already playing center.
Rocco kind of. And I just personally disagree that Adams won't be on the floor. I think they're gonna
I just think you can't have him on
be
the
willing to let someone. I think they're gonna let someone shoot. I'd let Rocco shoot. I think is who the lowest percentage would be of those five.
I mean,
Rocco. It's either Rocco or PJ. But if PJ can drop 40 points in 3 straight games, the Rockets deserve to win that. But we both know PJ Tucker won't drop 40 points 3.
I know.
He's just not that kind of player.
Every single person would be confident with PJ Tucker shooting a corner 3 every possession. That is a good result in a possession.
You're not going to disagree.
But
with me on
he's gonna have like one good game, I think. And I think that the other ones, it's not like Steven Adams is dramatically slow either. I mean, he'll get out there. He'll have a hand up. It's not like he's gonna
that. Well, perimeter
be.
defender.
And I get that PJ Tucker's gonna be used to people flying at him. You just think that you're overselling the lack of defense of even Adams. I think Adams will be able to do a lot more than you expect. I think Steven Adams is underrated as all Julio.
I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm just saying
Perimeter, like, he cannot guard the perimeter, in my opinion.
And he's not very good if the guy was actually looking to drive, but I don't think PJ Tucker looks to drive hardly at all.
But then there's no
And I
then
mean,
there's the rim.
if you put him on Daniel
talking
House,
about-
I guess, Daniel House might go to the rim a lot. Daniel House may be a problem, but PJ Tucker, even like Robert Covington, they're not that good of drivers. The drive game is not where they're used to.
what I'm
Rocco's pretty good at that pull-up shot, I guess.
But what I'm saying is
There's no rim protection there either, because Steven Adams is not quick enough to help and get back. And
I mean, they are a good defensive team. I'm not saying they're a bad defensive team. I just think
I think they're one of the best.
Their small ball lineup is just going to overwhelm.
You think they can sweep them, though? You don't see a chance that the Thunder win a game.
I never said there isn't a chance. I just said, in my opinion, I think the Rockets will sweep them.
Okay, let's do it this way, because I'm curious. I'm intrigued. How many games do you think the Thunder can get?
Well, Ken is a very loose word.
What is the max that you are willing to bet that the Thunder would get?
willing to bet.
Obviously, there's always a chance that they win 7 games, or that the Thunder win 4 games. Yes,
Yeah.
but if you had to make a reasonable comment, where are you drawing the line before you say this can't happen?
Well, all
You
of
have
it-
to have a number.
It's basketball. I mean, anything can happen in basketball. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm not saying there's 0 chance the Thunder do anything. It's a prediction show. It's not a fact show.
But your prediction should be, for example, I will be straight up with you, and I'm going to say I think the most games the Rockets will win is 3. I don't think they could win a 4th. Like, I am 100% sure that I'd be willing to bet on it that they don't win a 4th game. You have to have some sort of number like that. Is your number 0?
Well, there's
Are you saying there's
no-
never?
like
I understand that you're going to try and play the diplomatic response here. I'm asking for you to make a irrational choice or
Thunder can
decision
win
here
4
and
games.
say, where is that line?
0 to 4 games. Is that how you want me to say it?
No, I want you to be realistic about it because you're just making
I
a
have a number.
diplomatic response, and it's
I don't have a number though.
you. Well, then, to me, if you're saying that they should sweep,
Fine,
you should be saying, okay, I can see them winning 3 games. You know, I can see them winning 2 games.
They're
You're like,
the Thunder are winning 0 to 2 games.
Does that make you happy?
thank you, and see, that's okay. I was just trying to make you make your diplomatic or get away from the diplomatic response and be human.
It still doesn't make sense.
How doesn't it make sense to you?
Because they can win 4 if they like both teams can win 4 games. Nobody's disagreeing with that.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's just like, oh yeah, this is gonna happen. You make a prediction. Your mind goes through stuff, and it says, okay.
If you had to give me all of these
Options like Thunder in 5, Thunder in 4, Thunder in 6, Thunder in 7, Rockets in 7, Rockets in 6, Rockets in 5, Rockets in 4, my money would go on Rockets in 4 because that's the prediction that I'm making.
Yeah, I'm not going to keep fighting because you're not seeing what I'm trying to say, and that's fine.
You're right. I'm not.
I recognize our disagreement. It's the same thing as the Steven Adams thing. We're just never going to get along about this. It's okay. I'll just enjoy being right in the future. Ashton, you got anything?
No, I just hope that I'm right as well with my predictions. And I mean, great discussion. We had some great arguments, kind of some interesting moments, but all in all, great.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be back here. We'll be back here at about round 2 for the NBA. I think that's when we'll draw up the next podcast. And who knows? Maybe I'll be wearing a funny hat because I was an idiot the whole show. But I feel like Aaron will get the funny hat. We'll see what happens. Aaron, take her away.
Ashton wants to take it away.
I was just gonna
Ashton, you can take it away.
I was going to mention too before Aaron takes away, we're going to be trying to expand a little bit. Obviously, with school coming up soon, Aaron and I will be getting our school computers soon. So, what we're planning to do in the future is to add clips and kind of try and expand, the YouTube channel a little bit. That's kind of one of the main platforms we want to expand a lot. We're going to try and add clips and anything else. If you have any ideas, just let us know in the comments or DM us or anything.
Great point, Ashton. Great point. Aaron, take her away.
Okay.
That's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Sports Enthusiast Podcast. We'd like to thank you for listening. Make sure to check us out on Instagram at the Sports Enthusiast. Twitter is at SportsENTPod. DM us on any of those platforms if you'd like to get a hold of us. Any suggestions, we are open to them at any point. Merch, if you'd like merch, probably DM us on Instagram is going to be your best way to contact us about that. And other than that, that is going to wrap it up for episode 4 of the Sports Enthusiast Podcast. We'd like to thank you guys for listening. Have a good day.
Thank you.